Today we're talking about our T-Series compact gateways, device servers, and port sharers. And today we'll be going over first some definitions and terminology, talking about the difference between gateways, converters, device servers, and port sharers. There's a lot of confusion there and a lot of inconsistency between different manufacturers. So hopefully we can clear some of that up. We're going to look at some applications in industrial communication for our products. Then we're going to learn how to make sense of our T-Series product names because there is a method to the madness. And once you learn the secret, it's actually pretty easy to choose out one of these T-Series products at a glance based on the specs you want. And then, of course, we will look at product specs and selection before getting into our Q&A session. I have our engineer, Robert, with me today to answer any of your more technical questions. And then, as always, after the Q&A, we will be getting into our raffle. So stay until the end if you want to be eligible for the raffle. And for the Q&A, I would ask that you please hold your questions until the end. If you think of something, question that you must have answered, then please feel free to type it into the Q&A box in your Zoom toolbar. Make sure that it goes into the Q&A box and not the chat box, and then we will answer it live over the air. Or if you have a question and you have a microphone or a phone to call in, you can ask your question to us live on the air during the Q&A session. So if this is your first time joining us, a little bit about us, a little bit about ICP-DAS USA. ICP-DAS was founded in 1993. Our headquarters is located in Hsinchu, Taiwan. ICP-DAS USA was founded in 2001 to support the North and South American markets. We have over 150 R&D engineers working to develop new products, and we do work closely with our customers to develop new products and solutions. All of our products are RoHS compliant, meaning they're lead-free. We're ISO 9001 certified here in the States, SGS certified in the UK, and we are a Windows embedded partner. All right, like I said, we're talking about some of our T-Series industrial communication modules. The lowercase t in all of these products stands for tiny. Tiny. And in addition to the communication modules, we also have T-Series remote I/O modules, like the TM series Modbus RTU modules, the TET series Modbus TCP remote I/O data acquisition modules, and the TPET PoE Modbus TCP modules. And what makes the T-Series some of our all-time bestsellers, whether it's a data acquisition module or an industrial communication module, what makes the T-Series a bestseller is that these products take some of our customers' most desired, most wanted features and puts them into a palm-sized module that is low energy consumption and very competitively priced. And that's it. That's the big secret. Over the years, we've listened to what our clients want, work with the engineers at our factory to provide a great product so the customer gets what they want at a great price. And we get lots of happy customers that keep coming back. But let's get back to the T-Series. So today we are specifically talking about 3 product series, and these are all, again, communication modules. So these products follow similar naming conventions and perform similar functions. They even have a lot of the same specs. And like all T-Series, they come in the same palm size case. So it's understandable if you would get these confused. Today, it's my intention to demystify a little bit because there are still significant differences in what these do and how they can be applied. The first, the TGW 700, is our family of Modbus RTU to Modbus TCP gateways, and you use them to convert between networks using these protocols. The TDS 700 is our family of serial device servers, and you use these to access serial devices from a PC or another Ethernet controller. And our TSH 700 series, the main function is to be serial port sharers. So you use these to access one Modbus RTU device from 2 Modbus RTU controllers. Our TSH 700 series will also convert between Modbus RTU and Modbus ASCII, and then we'll convert baud rates as well. But the main function is as a port sharer. So let's talk about the difference between a gateway and a converter. There's a lot of confusion and a lot of crossover between gateways and converters, and not all manufacturers make it clear, and some manufacturers have a slightly different definition for these products, but the gist is pretty simple. Gateways provide an interface between two networks using different protocols, whereas converters convert between different physical mediums. Gateways keep networks separate with our TGW 715, for instance. This is a Modbus TCP to Modbus RTU gateway, and the control side queries values off of the gateway. So if you have a Modbus TCP controller and Modbus RTU sensors, then the controller queries the gateway as a Modbus TCP unit and receives Modbus TCP values. A converter, on the other hand, refers to a device which converts from one medium to another, or if you're using one of our converters like the I2541 to convert from RS45 to fiber, then the data arrives at the other end of your fiber network unchanged. So if you have Modbus values over RS45 that go into the converter, they come out Modbus RTU values. And the same goes for raw data or other formats. And now let's talk about device servers and converters. A device server, like the modules in our TDS 700 series, is a kind of converter, and it provides an Ethernet connection to a serial network through a virtual COM port on the host PC or controller. And again, it's done without touching the data. All right. Finally, what is a port sharer? Serial devices with one COM port can expand communication capacity with a port share. The most common application for our TSH 730 modules is the two masters, one slave configuration, where two Modbus RTU masters issue commands to the same Modbus RTU slave through a port sharer, the TSH 730. So, say you have an office lighting system with controls at both ends of the office floor. That would allow both controllers to access the same slave. This animation shows how the port sharer handles network traffic. If a command comes in one at a time, then it's passed through to the other end as normal. If the TSH 730 receives two commands, it passes the first one through first to the other end, waits for the response, and then sends the next command. Our TSH 700 will also convert between baud rates and between Modbus RTU and Modbus ASCII. But like I said, only the 3-port variants, the TSH 730 series, has the port sharing function. All right, and I'm sure you're all familiar with the protocols that we're going to be talking about today, but here is a list of the protocols used by the TGW and the TSH 700 series. The TDS, those are our device servers, are protocol independent. So the first, Modbus RTU, is mainly used with RS485 serial communication. It makes use of a compact binary representation of data, and Modbus RTU is the most common implementation of Modbus. Modbus ASCII is again used in serial communication and makes use of ASCII characters for protocol communication instead of binary. Modbus TCP/IP. This is a Modbus variant used for communications over TCP/IP networks. And then DCON. DCON is a request reply protocol that we use with our i7000, i8000, i87K series. It's a simple ASCII format protocol. Like I said, a simple reply request protocol. It works over RS232, RS485, and Ethernet. And then finally, like I said, our device servers are protocol independent. Okay, when to use a gateway. To reiterate, gateways provide an interface between two different types of communication networks, where the control side is pulling values off of the gateway rather than pulling end units on the serial side. The applications of this are in any situation where you need data translated into another protocol. For example, you would use a TGW 715 in a situation where you need to access data from your Modbus RTU devices, say DAQ modules or sensors, on your Modbus TCP controller or network. A gateway is a great choice when you want to connect your IT and OT networks. Let's look at some applications for the TGW 700 series. So the first application is the standard protocol gateway, like I've described before. But this shows how one or more Modbus TCP controllers on the Ethernet side pull data from the gateway, which it collects from the Modbus RTU devices on the RS-485 network. The second application is similar, but it's using a TGW 725 gateway that provides two RS-485 COM ports and access to two different serial lines. In this case, one is Modbus RTU, the other is Modbus ASCII. The PC controller queries, again, the converted Modbus TCP values from the gateway. In example 3, you can see a like pair connection wherein one Modbus RTU master is communicating with a single Modbus TCP slave. And in the final example, you can see that you can use two TGW 700 modules. And in fact, you can use two different modules in the TGW 700 family to create a pair connection between two RS-485 networks, creating a bridge or tunnel with your Ethernet connection. This is a great solution in offices or other applications where you already have robust IT infrastructure and want to take advantage of your Ethernet network instead of trying to run an extra RS-485 line through your office or through the building. Let's move on to device servers. So, a device server makes serial devices accessible on an Ethernet network. But unlike a gateway, the device server gives a PC access to serial devices through a virtual COM port. The virtual COM is protocol independent, and this allows you to access serial devices from a PC without changing the serial data values. So, Modbus RTU values stay Modbus RTU values on the Ethernet network and when they reach the PC. You would use a device server to change physical mediums without touching your data. All right, let's look at some applications for the TDS 700. In the first application, you can see two TDS 700s that are providing access to two different RS-485 networks by creating two virtual COM ports on a host PC using one Ethernet port. The host PC is running a serial client programming and accessing the serial network values through the virtual COM as if the Ethernet network wasn't there and you had a direct RS-485 connection between the PC on one end and DAQ modules on the other end. The second application shows the same physical configuration, but the PC host is running a TCP client program to access the devices over a TCP IP socket connection rather than through a virtual COM port. So this gives you a little bit of flexibility whether you want to connect over the TCP IP socket connection or set up a virtual COM port. And finally, in this third example, you can see a virtual RS-485 bus application using a pair connection. And this is a good way to connect an RS-485 controller to a distant RS-485 network. The TDS 700 servers are each connected to a discrete network, and then they send serial data over an Ethernet bridge to another device server, which is providing a virtual RS-485 bus to the distant PLC. This delivers data to the PLC unchanged, again, making it as though it were connected directly to a physical RS-485 bus. And last, we'll get to our port sharers. So the main function of the port sharer is to provide access for two controllers to the same Modbus RTU end unit or serial line. As you can see in the diagram, our TSH 700 series also provide protocol and baud rate conversion. So if you have a Modbus ASCII PLC at baud rate X, you can use the TSH 700 to communicate with the Modbus RTU units at baud rate Y. And let's look at some applications. So in this example, you can see two different versions of the two masters, one slave configuration that I described above, and we'll go into a little bit more detail. The function allows This function allows two master devices connected to different serial ports to share slave devices. The queries from the masters are queued in the TSH 700 module and then processed one by one. Modbus mode can be used to convert the Modbus RTU and ASCII protocols, while raw data mode can be used for decon or other query response protocols. Different baud rates and data formats can also be used on the different serial ports. And again, only the 3-port modules support the sharer function. Which brings me to this. To finish off these applications, I want to demonstrate the baud rate and protocol conversion function of the TSH 720 series. So the 2-port TSH 720 modules will convert between RS-232 and RS-485, and that's their main function. They will also perform some protocol translation between Modbus RTU and Modbus ASCII, and again, they will convert between different baud rates. Okay, so now I think you should have a pretty clear idea of what makes all these products different and what they do and how to apply them. And now I would just like to look at our selection. So the TGW series, the TGW 700 series and the TDS 700 series are very similar. They have a lot of the same physical specs, although they do perform a similar function. So let's look at the TGW 700 family of protocol gateways. I don't want to show you the whole selection because we do have quite a few modules, and I'm hoping you already know what they do. But these are some of our Modbus RTU to Modbus TCP gateways. They all come equipped with one Ethernet port and up to 3 serial ports, and there is a trick for deciphering which is which. So all of these are in the TGW or the TDS 700 series. So the 7 is just indicating the series. The second number in the module name indicates the number of serial ports, and the last number indicates the type. So 1, 2, and 3 in the second number for the number of ports, and a 2 for RS-232, a 5 for RS-485. Those are easy enough to remember. 8 represents one COM port that can be either RS-422 or RS-485, and a 4 represents a unit with both RS-232 and RS-485 ports. And it's the same for the TDS 700 series. This should just give you an example of some of our selection. But again, we do have a lot more that you can see on our website. And if you want more information, I can send you cut sheets and catalogs. All you have to do is email, and our contact info will be at the end. And let's look at the selection for our TSH 700 series port share. As you can see that they're the 720 series. Their main function, again, is the RS-232 to RS-485 conversion, but also the baud rate and Modbus RTU to Modbus ASCII conversion. And then the 730 series are our serial port sharers. And you can see, just like with the TGW and the TDS series, they come with up to 3 serial ports, and they use the same naming conventions. So having looked at the selection, I hope you've gotten a good idea of what these products are, how they work, and how to apply them. I also hope that I've cleared things up a little bit. I know that explaining the naming conventions definitely helps for our regular customers and for our distributors. So I hope that clears things up, and I hope that you can see what makes these products such a so special, what makes them such a top seller. These are inexpensive, reliable, and versatile products that can be used in many different applications. And as always, why should you choose ICP DAS USA? Well, we pride ourselves on providing reliable, cost-effective components designed to fill in the gaps in your system architecture. All of our parts work well with third-party components and systems, and we offer a very wide variety of products and solutions to fit any scale of project. But with all of that said, that about brings us to the end of the presentation, and I would like to move right into the